You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You're listening to Mission Log the Orville, an episode-by-episode discussion of the adventures of the crew of the USS Orville.
Hello, welcome to Mission Log the Orville, Episode 2. This week we're looking at Command Performance. This is the one where Alara gets her shot at command, and Ed and Kelly find out that people are alike all over. My name is Jessica Lynn Verdi.
And I'm Mike Richards. Mission Log the Orville is a conversation which depends on your participation. You can reach us at ML_the Orville on Twitter, or email us at missionlog-theorville@roddenberry.com. And remember, we may use your comments on an upcoming episode. Now with this week's recap, Jessica Lynn Verdi.
Woo! Season 1, Episode 2, Command Performance, or as I like to call it, the Frog Captain. Captain Ed Mercer and Kermit the Frog, in doll form, are in the ready room, and they're visited by Lieutenant Commander Bortus. Bortus, unfamiliar with Kermit, asks for more information. Ed explains that Kermit is a leader that he admires. Bortus, nonplussed as always, informs the captain that he's in need of a leave of absence for precisely 21 days in order to incubate his egg. This comes as a surprise to Mercer, who knew that the Mocklin species was an all-male species, yet he was in the dark as to how they reproduced. After an awkward set of yolks, Bortus is relieved. Act 1. While the crew is discussing the exciting turn of events, a distress signal is received from a fleet ship that has recently been attacked by the Krill. When the Orville arrives, they find the USS Blériot scanning the Orville. The captain of the Blériot explains that some of their systems are down, thus necessitating the scan. While the Blériot is a little beaten up, the captain finds it more pertinent to share with Mercer that they are carrying precious cargo. Ed's parents. After we take an awkward and personal trip through Mercer's colon, he and First Officer Kelly decide to board the ship. Lieutenant Alara Kitan is given the con, who absent-mindedly accepts the order until she realizes what just happened. With Lieutenant Commander Bortus away from duty, she's the next highest-ranking officer. Kelly quickly surmises that this is Alara's first time in command and assures her that she can handle it. As Ed and Kelly set to board the Blériot, steeling themselves to face Ed's parents, the question of their ultimate compatibility comes up. Ed insists that Kelly did them a favor by cheating on him, and Kelly reminds him that they never really had a good chance of finding out. As they step foot on the Blériot, they are immediately transported to God knows where. The Blériot disappears, and all that remains is what appears to be a buoy. Alara is put to her first test. She must make a call, but not before walking in on a nesting and fully nude Bortus, who cannot help. After a quick shot of Zalayan tequila and a good puke, Alara commands the buoy to be brought aboard in order to be studied, in hopes of revealing the whereabouts of Captain Ed and Commander Kelly. Not quickly enough, Isaac warns against pulling the buoy in, which results in an explosion on the hull, injuring numerous crew members and destroying key components of the ship. Alara asks Dr. Claire to relieve her of duty, citing that her first major decision resulted in so much damage. Claire assures her that she most likely learned a lesson and will only get better from here on out. Isaac realizes that there are trace signals left behind, which will most likely lead them to Mercer and Kelly. Alara, fortified, commands him to follow that line of thinking. It's soon revealed that the captain and commander have been captured by the Caliban, a species that thinks of themselves as far superior to any other, not dissimilar from the Kalons, Isaac's race. As such, they capture different species and put them on display. A menagerie of species, if you will. A cage. A cage in which Ed and Kelly quickly fall into their old marital habits. Act 2. Upon delivering this information to the fleet admiral, Alara is ordered to return to Earth and leave the captain and the first officer lost in the line of duty. In carrying out this order, Alara relieves Gordon of duty when he calls her out for making a cold-blooded call. The crew's morale is down and everyone's upset with Alara, who, once again, seeks advice from her Jedi Master, Claire, who further explains what command is. It's being able to make decisions that have consequences, life and death consequences. And if that wasn't rousing enough, Gordon tells Alara that she sucks, that the captain would have gone after her. Alara commands the Orville to turn around, defy the admiral, and go after their people. Arriving at the Caliban homeworld, Isaac devised a plan to use the Caliban technology against itself. In a twist of irony, Claire is left in command while Isaac and Alara head down to the planet. Isaac finds the zookeeper and brings his pet, Alara, along. Woof. He informs the zookeeper that while he may want to have a human exhibit, the two in question, Ed and Kelly, were in the middle of being treated for a deadly disease. This has the opposite intended effect. Instead of being released, the zookeeper decides to euthanize them, which is supposed to be painless. Alara asks Isaac to convince the zookeeper to speak to her, and in doing so, she's able to offer him a trade that he can't refuse. Alara's offer is accepted just as Ed decides what his last words will be. The euthanasia beams are canceled. Cut to Alara being commended in front of the crew by a rescued Captain Ed Mercer. Not only was she able to command the ship safely, she saved her people. We learned that Alara took Gordon's suggestion and offered the Caliban their best exhibit yet, The Real Housewives of New Jersey, and a plethora of reality television. Meanwhile, Clyden and Bordis's egg begins to hatch, and we learn that the impossible has happened. They have given birth to a female Mocklin.
Really nice job on the recap.
Are you sure? Was I like... Blah, 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 blah?
Well, of course you were, but that's just what we do here on Mission Log the Orville. So, Puke and Rally, you think that's a class they teach at Union Point?
I think when Alara becomes a tenured officer, she's going to teach that for sure at the fleet. So, I bet you there is... Like, think about, like, Hell Week for football or something like that. Sure. If you don't puke the first day, you're not getting conditioned the right way.
Well, here at Mission Log the Orville, we don't condone hazing in any form, but I have heard those kind of things do happen.
So I'm even talking about football. So, like, they're just working out, and they're working their ass off.
Oh, yeah.
So not even hazing. Like, they're just, like, first, like, if I haven't worked out in a while and I go back to work out, I feel like I'm going to puke. So.
Oh, yeah.
I think you will get prepared for the moment where you do puke and how to keep on going.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So Kermit the Frog keeps cool in a crisis, inspires greatness in people.
So I love that you pointed that out right away. So when good writing is good, you're not supposed to see how... you're not supposed to see the strings that connect the whole story. But just by introducing us, there's so many different ways you can describe Kermit the Frog, right? Which is like a puppet, not real, not a fictional character, But he decides to describe Kermit as a captain. And that gives us basically the playground for what we're going to see Alara play in as her first command.
Sure, and I've been around Kermit the Frog pretty much my whole life, watching
Kermit the Frog,
Sesame Street as a little kid, and he is a multipath. He is a man of all trades.
Is he the leader?
I think he is, as far as I can tell, he is, and but he's an entertainer, and he is, he supports the other folks. So good for Ed for seeing that. A lover of pork, absolutely. Speaking of pork and pork butt. Does an egg come out of the butt on any species that anybody knows of, or?
I think even though we have talked about, and we will talk more about Lieutenant Lamar being really smart, it was a dumb question. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't. But does it come out of the butt? I don't flipping know. I mean, if he's, I don't know anything about eggs. And I actually think it's interesting, too, because do frogs lay eggs as well, don't they, that turn into tadpoles?
We're going to have to reach out to our science officer for that. So,
Fair.
Or, if anybody knows, feel free to hit us up at...
I would love to know.
Mission Log-the-Orville at Roddenberry.com.
here's the thing that kind of bothers me. He's the captain. Ed Mercer is the captain of a ship. The Mocklins are part of the Union. He doesn't know. You can see how heated I am. He doesn't know that how Mocklins reproduce. That's just not in their book. Like, he's so inappropriate about, like, their normal species.
He, knowing your people is definitely a command skill, something that's important. I don't know how long it's been. He may have just gotten there. It might be the first Mocklin he's working on. I don't know. I
think it's odd. I
think it's odd too. And not knowing is one thing, but hitting him up for calling dibs on the omelet.
And then still wanting an egg? It's so upsetting. Yeah. Mike, it's so upsetting.
It was. But I love the, I'm just not going to try comedy with you anymore. So I wonder if that was sort of pointed at the character of Bortus, or just if Captain Mercer was going to lay off the dad jokes for the remainder of their briefing.
I thought that, or is this an overall commentary for the show? Like, you know what? Maybe we don't do jokes. It's not really. But, the more I hear about the Orville, it's interesting to hear that potentially Seth didn't want to have jokes. He wanted it just to be a straightforward show. But one of the, if Seth MacFarlane is going to do this show, you have to include the jokes. So I wonder how he feels about writing these when in reality he doesn't wish he was.
Well, and I go back to Gene Roddenberry and the original Star Trek, which was sold as Wagon Train to the Stars, which combined Westerns and action and adventure with science fiction. Oh. So with sci-fi, you kind of need the ship so you can look at things from a global perspective and kind of take a look at those big human issues. And to combine that with a popular storytelling device at the time, or something that Gene Roddenberry was very good at, which was, action and adventure and westerns, that kind of made sense. And now we have Seth MacFarlane taking his forte, his real strength, and using that and combining that with sci-fi to look at the human condition from a global perspective. So I think it's playing to his strength. And I think it would be personally, I think it would be unfortunate for somebody who is so good at satire to not be able to use that strength in this show.
Totally. I would agree. And I think we were talking about this before on the first episode, but perhaps not, that it's not like TNG or other episodes haven't tried their hand at humor, but these jokes, in my opinion, land better because we know to anticipate it. Because other people will say that the Orville is hard for them to watch because of the humor, which is totally a valid opinion. But for me, it's like, you know what? If I was in that moment, I probably would be like, is it out of the butt? I mean, I'd probably also get put in the brig, but I might make that joke.
So this may be better. Kind of remind me when we get to the next segment, if you would, because I don't think I have it in my notes, but I do want to talk about the sort of the realness of these characters versus maybe what we've seen in proper Star Trek. So I'd like to kind of bounce back to that a little bit later.
I definitely would love to. I can move my central perk idea to there.
No, I want to hear the central perk idea because I did not pick up on that. So
you don't
educate me.
You know what central perk is, though, right?
The coffee shop and friends.
Correct. Basically, the bridge is their central perk. They're all there. They're chitty chatty. They gossip.
Yeah.
And this is a theme you see through. It's basically like the common ground where they all meet, and they're chitty chatty like they're friends.
Yeah.
It's not the best analogy, but it is like the living room of sorts.
It's not bad. It is the living room. It's the workplace. I just think of them, sitting around with their big cups, which might as well have nipples on them.
Fair. And Lamar's drinking soda underneath the console.
It is.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, that banter back and forth is really kind of cool.
Because they already bonded. There's already an emotional. There's already a chemistry with the character, them, and just in the fact that they can talk that easily together.
And with a good ensemble show, which I'm not going to bother counting them right now, but I'd say it's probably around 6 people we're going to see most of the time. That's kind of the perfect amount, enough to keep track of, but not so many you get overloaded.
3 women, 3 men, usually.
Yeah.
For up to this point.
Yeah. So Alara did a lot of running on the episode. She ran to Bortus, and then she kind of ran to do a shot, and then she kind of ran to Claire.
Yeah.
Did it look to you like she had the same track coach maybe as Lokai and Beale from the half black, half white Star Trek episode?
Is that what was happening? Let this be our last fight, right?
I don't know. I just know there was a lot of arms, not a lot of movement, which just kind of reminded me of how Frank Gorshin and how Lokai and Beale were running when they were chasing each other, because one was black on the right side. All of his people are black on the right side.
And how dare they?
How dare they? How dare you not notice?
Well, and I agree that her running was a little awkward. It's very funny because, we talked about her qualifications and how it was called into question in the first episode, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But she just doesn't strike me as like the most like fitness run. So like she's just running from set to set in this episode. It's really interesting that she's running. So I don't know. Anyway, it's an interesting character choice. She could have like leaped and bounded probably.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Maybe she was just trying to slow herself down because she is so does have super strength.
Totally. So I think that the cannabis edible is really interesting. It's kind of like a red herring in a sense. Like you expect they're going to get on that ship and take the edible, and the like hijinks ensue.
Right.
But the only purpose of the cannabis edible is to have them have that shared memory with those friends that sucked at the opera, which I thought was fascinating.
It was fascinating, and I didn't see it. I picked up on that later, but what I immediately thought of, this is just sort of normal. Like if I right now am a little stressed out or something like that, I may get a cup of tea or something like that helps settle me down. But Kelly Grayson, God love her, just walked right over to the food synthesizer and got a cannabis brownie, which is great. And maybe that's just sort of what she needed to manage her anxiety, her strength, and maybe that's where we're going in 400 or 500 years. That it's just another tool in the toolbox to manage your mental health and get through your day to day.
Yeah, because it wasn't even made a joke, or like there wasn't a moral about like don't have a cannabis brownie. Like sometimes when an object is paid that much attention to, you expect it to be part of the resolution of the story. But you're right, it's just a normal thing that this person can do in order to manage themselves. Now correct me if I'm wrong. Synthesizers on Star Trek, or alcohol is synthetic, right? And it can't get people drunk.
So I think there have been, that sort of depends on the story they're telling. There's synthahol, there's synthale. There's also people that kind of have their stash of alcohol.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of all of the above. But synthahol I've always thought of as being alcohol-free, or as some people describe it, pointless.
Correct. Well, not unless you like the taste but can't drink alcohol, right? So, because there are those people. I knew someone who I'll never drink again, but I love myself one of those, O'Douls, which I thought was very strange. But that was her wind down.
And we should say that here on Mission Log of the Orville, we don't condone the use of cannabis or drinking alcohol to excess.
Oh, I think anything in excess, right? But what I think is interesting is that the synthesizers give you straight up alcohol, give you straight up weed, and it's a really interesting departure, I think.
Well, and maybe we get to the point by now that those kind of things are, maybe managed.
People have control, yeah. Not abused, essentially.
And I can see that, but I think in today's market, cannabis edibles would be a bad idea. For first in command, I would agree with you. It wouldn't, but also they know each other well enough. He knows her well enough to know what he's going to be like. Kelly's rocking the cannabis brownie.
Right.
A little bit later on, they get settled into the apartment and their natural habitat, if you will, a cage,
correct,
a menagerie. And Germans have beer for breakfast.
So I do know this anecdotally, or I read it somewhere. During Lent, I believe they are German priests that drink a bread beer.
Right.
And it's the only thing they drink during Lent. So it is an alcoholized beer, fermented thing, but it's very yeasty and fortifying.
Sure.
So there's that element, and I didn't know otherwise that they had it for breakfast. I do know that you can subsist on beer, though.
So that was kind of a thing with Lent, where they were supposed to go 40 days without eating. Back in the day. The monks would take a bunch of, I don't know, things like wheat and barley and hops and water and throw it into a keg and kind of store it there so that they could get some nutrients over the course of that 40 days without eating. What they didn't understand back in the day was fermentation. So all of a sudden these 40 days are turning into a really good time, and it did not take them long to realize what was going on. But yeah, from what I understand.
I didn't know that. They basically invented beer. That's great.
And I may be wrong on that, so feel free to call me on that if it's not true. But that's I heard that story once, and it stuck in my head, and it's not coming out.
Totally stuck. Well, yeah, I think I don't know that I want to drink beer for breakfast. I even have a hard time after a hangover having a beer, but I'm sure it's delicious. Really what he's making this argument is that he's just miserable and he wants a friggin' beer. He just wants a beer to take off his Kelly hangover.
Oh yeah. And she goes, "You're not German," and he said, "You're not Frankenberry."
Oh,
which
so funny.
Which you can still I had to Google that. You can still get Frankenberry. They sell it mostly just around Halloween.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's sort of in that batch of monster cereals with
Count Chocula.
Exactly right.
And the other thing too, I think, Kelly. Kelly, I did notice this, and we could talk about this in the morals section, but it was really nice to see Kelly support Alara when she was questioning herself, and when Kelly and Mercer are talking about how will Alara handle this, they realize, oh God, we've left a 23-year-old in charge of the ship. And a little nervous, like you might feel nervous, like have your teenager have the keys for the car for the first time. He says she's really green, and that means she's Kermit.
Oh, boom!
It's not easy being green.
But you know what else he said?
What?
She's really smart.
Yeah. Well, he says she's smart, but she's really green.
Yeah.
I just thought that was, whether he meant it or not, a full 180 or 360 tie-in to Kermit.
So you mentioned her age again, and you were like, she's 23, she's green, but she's fully qualified in her position, which puts her next in line to be in command. So those are the kind of things that I think about. But let's kind of jump back to that, because I want to hit later on the conversation with the Admiral and stuff like that. But in the meantime, do you think they just still have the historical documents of Dora the Explorer, or do you think it's been rebooted in the the 25th century?
For Lamar to bring it up twice, right?
Twice.
He literally refers to her as Dora the Explorer twice. My guess is they have rebooted Dora 100 times over now. Because I don't know if you know this, I loved True Blood, and they're rebooting it right now, and it feels like way too soon. So I feel like there's going to be a new Dora every 15 years, 10 years or so. So some sort of iteration of Dora exists in that future, and she's updated. I have to think, especially because in the future episodes, there's so much. Oh, it's a classic TV show. You would never hear about it.
Right. Well, I hear with Alara's thanks, Dick, meaning first name, not cuss word. With my last name, I get thanks, Richard, quite a bit. Ooh. And so I kind of chuckled at that one out loud.
Is the zookeeper's name Dick? I totally missed it.
I think his name must have been, or else why else would she have called him that?
Oh, she's calling him a dick because he thinks less of her.
No, I know.
Oh, okay. So this is where I'm learning your humor.
This is where I'm trying not to use profanity on the show.
Oh, well, Dick is a name.
That's right.
And she says,
and apparently it was the zookeeper's name.
Yeah, it was definitely in that moment. It was the zookeeper's name. You're totally right. I will say that line delivery, and just it's so Seth, but it's so wonderfully delivered, and it really gets me every time. It's really enjoyable. It's very funny.
It really was. Hey, did you notice in the opening credits who directed this thing?
So no, I didn't. I think there's a couple Easter eggs here that I know nothing about. So please enlighten me.
One of the things we didn't mention that we probably should have in episode 1, Old Wounds, that was directed by Jon Favreau. Who isn't just some guy. All right. I mean, that's the guy that directed Iron Man. That's the guy that,
he's
is a
responsible for the Marvel.
Sure.
Besides,
yeah.
Right.
He created the Mandalorian and so much of, the Disney Plus Disney Star Wars verse. So yeah, this just isn't some guy. There's a deep well of talent that Seth MacFarlane has talent to. And so yeah, Jon Favreau last week was a consulting producer on this episode, but Robert Duncan McNeil,
who I don't know.
Tom Paris, a.k.a. Nick Locarno from the Next Generation episode.
Yes.
Not Delta Squadron, but the guys that did the Culvert Starburst and got in trouble with Wesley Crusher, where a kid got killed. Came back as an actor, not as a character, to play Tom Paris on 7 seasons of Voyager.
So the only reason I know that is because Boimler is so excited to get Tom Paris' signature.
He has a Tom Paris plate.
Yes. So that's who. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And now I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's very cool. What a good tenured person to do that.
Absolutely. And the USS Blériot, named after Louis Blériot. He was a French engineer who got wealthy. Think Bezos, Musk, that kind of thing. Got wealthy because he engineered a new kind of headlight for trucks that they used in the military and in the private sector, and he got loaded financially, and he spent all his money on aviation research. So he was the first guy to fly an airplane from Paris across the English Channel from continental Europe to England, and he was a leader in aviation and engineering.
Wow.
And with this episode being about leadership, I thought that was a great kind of name to throw in, kind of as a throwaway on the name of the ship, but it just kind of shows me how smart this show is. Like, you can keep peeling back the onion, and please, if we're missing stuff, let us know on our email address or our Twitter feed or wherever. Just let us know, because there's going to be a lot of stuff in this episode and all the episodes going forward that our listeners and watchers are thinking of that we're not.
And yeah, and if you all, that's a really great point, Mike. And if you know that the next episode is coming up, I know they're going to do episode 3 or episode 4. Don't be afraid to tweet us ahead of time, so that way we might keep an eye out for it on our rewatch. Or if you're watching it along with us for the first time while we're doing this podcast, which we super welcome, and we want to know that as well. Let us know if you do find some Easter eggs. I'm sure there's plenty out there. Wait, Tom Paris. The guy flew from Paris, right? That's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
There it is. I'm finding them right now just by hanging out.
Exactly right.
So, one of the things that we do here at Mission Log is, dissect and talk about the things that we can learn from this show. And that's why the Orville was such a natural choice, because it does have so many of the Roddenberry values. And so I wanted to see if you had any thoughts to start us off, Mike, on a couple morals or lessons learned from what we got out of this week's episode.
Okay. I'd like to talk about one moral and then just one observation right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I love Adrienne Palicki's acting. Man, she does great work just with her facial expressions and her eyes, as Ed is being Ed, and he might be on a tangent or being neurotic or just, being himself. She will just look at him like, in a way that just lets you know exactly what she's thinking. But I found my time watching her as other people were speaking, just to watch her reaction to what they had to say, and it was brilliant.
I think she's written that way because in reality, she seems to be the person that is the voice of, it's almost she's more Seth MacFarlane in this than Seth MacFarlane is in the show. There's always someone that represents the person we're probably going to trust the most. And anytime she glances to the side or to Ed, she knows something's off, And so she's keeping her eye on it, literally. And she really does do a lot with a little and gets her point across really, really beautifully in her acting that way. You're totally right to point that out.
And I think it sells the point that she knows him better than he knows himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. So I want to combine a couple of things with what you said about, since we're on the topic of Commander Kelly Grayson, played by Adrienne Palicki, and the fact that she stood up and she supported Alara Kitan when she was nervous about taking command. And she was like, look, you can do this. You're fully qualified. Story over.
Yeah. But so my thought is there's like a couple different ways to look at it. And I like thinking about it in both ways. Ed should have been the one to say that. Right?
Correct.
Ed should have said, you got this. I'm the commander. I'm instilling this in you. And it's not that he didn't, and that's why Kelly had to jump in there. It's just really nice to know that she can be supportive of a woman right away. It's really nice to see examples of women lifting other women up, because it's not. I would say that trend has only changed in the last few years. I watched Jessica Jones, and I was enjoying it, the TV show. And her sister, her stepsister or whatever, I was waiting for her to backstab her. I was waiting for her to be the villain or something like that. And it never happened. Did they fight? Totally. But it really showed me how conditioned I am to look at other women as competition or as, like not friends or enemies, as opposed to someone who can lift me up. And that was also a part of my life where I started shifting my perspective on women. And now I'm just surrounded by women that are better than me that I can aspire to. So, Kelly just, without skipping a beat, goes, you could do it. And not even like in a condescending way or in hoping that she'll inspire her to be good. She just got her to the point that she needed to hear. It was really awesome.
Yeah. And I do think that Ed, although distracted by having to go see his parents or what he thought, I think that was his place. But, a good XO will do those kind of things too. I mean, that's sort of her direct report chain to do that. Now, let me ask you something, if you don't mind, because I don't have your perspective. I don't have your life experiences. I don't know what you know. Women not supporting women is sort of a phenomenon that I've heard about and that I've read about. And you said that's changing recently, which I think is.
I think in the TV sphere or like the media sphere, the way it's being depicted. Just to be clear. Okay.
So depicted on TV or like in the film industry.
I would say overall in media. I don't know what it's like on I would say, I guess my point was it was being depicted to me on TV shows or film that the woman's the best friend, but that she's going to, take your boyfriend, or she's your enemy up until you guys can work together. It's very rare that you start off with seeing a healthy-ish relationship between women on TV or film.
Right.
And that's changing probably in the last few years sometimes.
Good. It should. I mean, I think we just need to all support each other regardless of how you identify.
I just have I have a whole, TED talk that we can go into about it at another time. But it really, I think women were pitted against other women so that they were less of a threat to a patriarchal society. Because I learned my dislike of women from my father. And so,
really,
he was
the ice cream Eggo making Star Trek watching.
The more we talk about my sweet, amazing father, who I also don't talk to right now, it's a complicated relationship, and there's complicated lessons, and I believe in just existing honestly, and I'm sure he would be mortified, but he thought, he was helping me to understand, quote unquote, women by sharing what he believed the nature of how women interacted was. And so my viewpoint of how to not trust women was thanks to that. And I'm sure society as well. It's being mirrored to me on TV and things like that. Or one girl in elementary school is mean to me, so that must be how all girls are. So it's certainly not just him. But as I've matured and allowed myself to come up with my own opinions, it's not held true. I see some immature women who still feel like there's competition. That's one of the stronger tenets of feminism, is not looking at a woman as competition for a mate. If you want to look at them as competition for a job, awesome, but it's also keep that healthy as much as possible. And really, the last I'll say about it is my current group of women that I'm, not only improvising with, but my closest friends, we are all in a similar business, and we all lift each other up. We're all really excited when someone's booked a job. We'll help each other with an audition. We give each other advice. And we really operate on the high tide rises all ships method. It's really beautiful.
I go back to my mother, and she went back to school when I hit first grade and got a degree in computer science.
Wow.
And it took her, she was going part-time, so it took her about 4 years to get her 2-year degree part-time, and then went to work as a computer programmer in very much a man's field. So I would think if you're the only woman on the floor and one other one shows up, that maybe that is, lasers locked for your competition. I don't know. I'm just interested in what I can do to help.
Well, I think just learning I think you're doing it, and I've always got something to learn too. I've learned about feminism from other men too, so it's not like it's just things don't happen in a vacuum, and I'm also not a monolith, but I do have my experience. But you bring up a good point that if in a workforce people are just hiring as like a quota. So if you've got 2 Latinos, or if you've got one Latino on a writer's room, well, we got the Latino, so we don't need another one.
Right.
So that's where some things become a problem as well, when you're just filling a seat in order to look like you're being diverse and inclusive. So I know a lot of that is changing, but mostly because people are talking about how that's the status quo and how they're changing it. So we're all just doing our best, I think.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, because I don't want to be the ignorant person in the room on these kind of things.
Oh, I think you can't be ignorant if you're willing to learn. So that was not my impression at all.
Okay, so speaking of this sort of thing, maybe Admiral Tucker, played by the wonderful Ron Canada, Star Trek veteran, said to Alara, "You're young, so I'm going to overlook the fact that you are questioning my orders." Again, doesn't matter that she's young. She is qualified. She is inexperienced, but theoretically she's had the training and she'll be able to make these decisions. That kind of goes hand in hand with the question that Ed asked in episode 1 of, how old are you? And she said 23, but they tend to fast track us because there's not a lot of Zelayans, which is kind of a humble way of her justifying her being there. I don't think she needed to do that. But now she gets to go about the job of commanding. And that's what I'm really interested in. Okay. So can I jump right into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Alara, first thing she does when she realizes she's overwhelmed is she runs to Bortus's quarters. And he's naked, and he's sitting on an egg, and he's brooding, and he's not going to sacrifice the life of his unborn child, which I totally get. And he says, "Are you in command?" And she said, "Yes." And then he said, "You must remain in command." That's all the advice that he gave her. Remain in command. So what does she do? She slams a shot of Zelayan tequila, pukes, straightens her uniform. She does take Gordon's advice to bring the shuttle back by remote control, but she does it sort of hesitantly. She was like, "Yeah, okay, sure, good idea. Let's do that. Good job." But then Isaac makes the recommendation that we should not bring this thing on the ship, this buoy on the ship, until we know what it's made out of. And then he was like, "Holy cow, we got a huge energy spike." But she didn't listen to Isaac. And there was the explosion, and I think it was Ensign Parker. Ensign Parker, who we love. We love Ensign Parker. Got hurt, and he'll be okay. He's not going to run any marathons anytime soon, but he'll be okay. But now she goes to Claire, right? And I love this because this is such a Star Trek moment with the captain going to the doctor for advice. And do you remember what she told him? What Claire told Alara?
So about I can't give you all the answers, or
yes,
making the mistake.
Definitely that. She said command is a balance. She said you made an error, but you're going to learn from it. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And she said command is a balance between inspiring confidence in your leadership and knowing when to trust your people. So that's two things, right? That's knowing your stuff, right? That's how you inspire confidence, by being competent, by knowing your people, by knowing what you're supposed to know. And trusting your people, being vulnerable enough that when your people have a better idea, that you're willing to listen to them. Later on, she goes back to Claire, and Claire said, commanders have a choice. This was when she was debating whether or not to go, or really trying to justify not going back for Ed and Kelly. And Claire told her, commanders have a choice, and that choice has consequences that could jeopardize your career or worse, but it's up to you. You're the captain. And she goes right back up to the bridge. She works with Isaac. She trusts her people, and she understands that the answers that she needs are there on the bridge. She just needs to listen to them.
I love too when they go down to the planet or to the zoo, and she puts Claire in command, and Claire's like, "Damn it!" Like
that was great.
So enjoyable. It's because ultimately, even though Claire's experienced too, and this can't be the first time she's had the con, it's an intimidating thing to be in charge of 300 people on a starship in the void. You know,
it is,
and
it's
not that
always easier to be the one who's sort of providing counsel and sort of leading, being behind the curtain. That's easy. When you're the one having to make the call, it's difficult.
And I think that's what we're getting here is we're seeing that this is not an easy. It's not an easy job. I actually, the kind of commander that I want or would be or would hope to be is someone that just can make decisions and stand by them. And more than you see here, Alara's not dealing with ego. Maybe she could sense. It wouldn't hurt if her esteem of herself was a little bit higher, because even she's deprecating when she goes, "Oh, we get fast tracked." That's not saying I'm worth it. It's not
right.
And I also want to say too briefly, I'm really glad that we get this episode over and done with, so that we're not questioning her again.
Right.
Like for the most part, like we just don't need to keep on going. She's so young. Well, that's not like the crux of her character. And
no.
So by like getting this out of the way, it's really helpful.
Yeah, she's smart, and she learns from her mistakes, and she's able to use the people around her. If I may, look at sort of the decision-making process in the original series. It was always Kirk sort of being the realist, right? Trying to do the, maybe the ethical thing, but understanding that there were kind of limitations that the real, galaxy puts on you.
Yes.
And he would go to Spock for the logical advice, and he would go to McCoy for the emotional, heartfelt advice. And he would take those things, and he would make a decision based on, what he thought was best. But he never did it in a vacuum. He never did it just by himself. He didn't.
Such a good point.
You didn't really see a lot of in episode in where he was at his best, where James T. Kirk was at his best. He wasn't an autocrat. There were times where he was an autocrat on the show, but that was usually under stressful times.
Correct.
That then they would be able to flip around a little bit later and show the right way to do things, which is to bring your folks in. I don't know if any other TV show that's considered action, adventure, sci-fi has a conference room. But there was a conference room in The Cage. There was a conference room in the original series. There was a conference room in Next Gen, because they want to talk about these things and make good decisions based on assessing the situation, looking at what kind of information you can get from people, looking at what your options are, talking things out, and then deciding as a group that, okay, that we're going to do it this way.
And still having the person that's at the forefront making the call, right?
Right.
Because quorum is really hard to achieve.
Yeah,
and I think when you're looking at TOS, the logical solution and the emotional solution should be opposing, and Kirk's responsibility is to marry the two and make them work out the best as possible.
Yeah, so I think
that's a really good observation.
Thank you. I think she definitely learns a lot. We get to see some good decision making exercises from her, and definitely some character growth. And again, episodic TV. back in the 60s, not a lot of character growth. Things were just sort of reset button at the end of every show. But, we're already seeing Ed grow in episode 1. We're seeing Alara Kitan grow in this one. But I want to sort of jump to the Ed and Kelly's apartment life for a little bit.
Okay.
Because they wake up in the New York City apartment, and I think the camera was maybe upside down as Ed kind of came to consciousness, and
he flipped up.
Yeah, and he rolls over, and it had such a Twilight Zone vibe to me, and reminded me so much of an episode, season 1 episode called "People Are Alike All Over,"
Right.
with Roddy McDowell, who was an astronaut who landed on Mars and was brought in. He thought they were trying to help him. So they gave him a place to live, and they were going to fix his ship. And next thing he knows, the doors are all locked, and there's folks looking at him as if he is in a zoo. And the reason why they were looking at him like he was in a zoo, he was in a zoo.
He was in a zoo.
Yeah. So great. I thought it was a great throwback to an episode like that of the Twilight Zone.
So here's the thing I'm a little confused about, and
Sure.
it's like obviously not. It's like they can't solve the problem of these Calavans literally enslaving different races. But first of all, how did Alara know that they needed to also free the child? and second of all, why didn't they get anyone else off that? Did they get everyone else off because they gave them the reality TV show? I feel like it needed to be a little bit more clear if that happened or not.
I think we can maybe fill in the blanks with that. They did get the child out of there.
Which, so sweet.
Oh, I know. And I want to come back to that with, kind of lessons here at the end. But it was, they realized they're in a zoo, and, he says, what kind of people do this? We stopped doing this hundreds of years ago, enslaving animals for entertainment. So, I think there was definitely an animal rights message there baked into the show.
So I would be really curious to find out if they served meat on that set during the shooting of this, because I don't know if there isn't a better, literally cautionary tale on what not to do with animals. And I'd really do my best. Some people literally can't physically not eat meat,
right?
But I am a personal. I don't eat meat because of the treatment of animals. I'm still having a hard time cutting out cheese, which arguably doesn't help what I'm trying to do, because it's still part of the meat market is by,
right.
So I understand that, and I'm trying my best at the moment. I'm taking things, step by step. But, we talk about how euthanasia. A lot of people out there who believe that euthanasia is the right way to deal with animals when they're being mistreated or
right.
being brought in, and in order to limit roadside attractions or to avoid Tiger King situations, which is I can see the arguments for both sides, but the fact that we just don't treat living, breathing, heart beating animals with respect is real tough. It's real tough.
It really is. Kelly said there was a time when humans imprisoned animals for entertainment. It wasn't intended to be cruel. We just felt as the higher species we had the right. And I made a couple of notes, imprisoning animals, separating children from their parents. And there's research that says that, the animals are just, terrified when this happens. That the mother animals just wail in angst and pain.
It's tough.
So I think they did a nice job of giving us something to talk about without being preachy.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of preach. There's a lot of, it's showed, not told. And it did give some wiggle room for some people that aren't ready to not take their kid to a zoo in order to give them something to do. Of course, the zoo idea is fascinating. And there's also people that are dedicated to taking care of those animals. But you're not wrong that there are still a lot of moral wet areas about it.
Yep. Well, I feel like we've arrived at the part of the show where we discuss the lessons learned from Command Performance.
So I'm interested. What if this episode happened in a vacuum for you and you didn't know the Orville? What would you walk away with here?
I would walk away with, be Kermit the Frog. Keep cool in a crisis, inspire greatness in people, striking a balance between confidence in your leadership and knowing when to trust your people. That confidence in knowing your own areas of responsibility is important because other people are going to look at you and they're going to judge you on whether or not you know what you're doing. Also, it's important to trust your folks. And I think those kind of things like competence, trust, and vulnerability those are the pillars of leadership. And I think all of those things were touched on in this episode in a really cool, Kermit the Frog kind of way.
Yeah, you bring up something that I didn't. This makes me think something I hadn't mentioned before. But this show also is brilliantly showing us what Ed Mercer, Seth MacFarlane's character, is going to be having to deal with as a captain as he's coming into his own as well. He's already ready to be a captain in the way he can command, but we're not seeing him struggle with command. We're watching someone else have to, so that we know how hard this is going to be for him too.
Yeah, and job one of leadership is training your replacement. So.
That's pretty darn cool. I didn't know that, but that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, bringing your people along, giving them experience, giving them tutelage. Yeah, and I can never hear that word without thinking of 48 Hours.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy.
Oh, what is it?
Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours. It's old. It was.
No, I was confusing it with 21 Hours when his arm is pinned, and then there's those zombies.
Oh, with Franco.
28 Days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of number movies.
There's a lot of number movies, but if you haven't seen that movie with Franco, man, it's some of his best work.
That's tough. So my lesson, the thing I walk away with is because I relate so much to Alara is. You're so right that trust your people and get feedback, but she's really got to come into her own and trust herself and be okay with making a mistake, but also she also shares credit so well. You're so right that we see her not listen to Isaac and then we see her listen to Isaac. I want to be the kind of leader, I want to see this kind of leader elsewhere that goes, I can share this accomplishment with others. Or this person gave me this great idea, and I ultimately said yes, let's go. That's a wonderful improv philosophy, actually.
It is, and that's something I learned from you. Now, I kind of wonder why she listened to Gordon Malloy, but wouldn't listen to Isaac in her first scene.
I have a feeling. I think I know why.
Why?
Because they're a dick to her. They're Commander Dick to her.
He's condescending. That means talking down to people.
Right. So can you explain that to me more slowly so that I get it?
Sorry, I hope that was
no. It was not funny. Bad. It was funny. You're killing it.
But so there was that, and then I wonder if it's not human to human. I don't know if it was maybe.
It sounds like she made a decision already, and I think she was also afraid to go back on it too.
Yeah, that happens.
But you're talking about two guys that are being catty, which is so inappropriate.
Right.
But I want, you bring up a good point. Like, why isn't she listening to a very logical piece of advice? But she's already made the decision, and I'm sure she was afraid to go back on it. How much can you relate to digging your heels in deep into some poo poo?
I can relate better than I think, better than I would like to admit. But you know what? At the end of the day, man, when I have made decisions and other people are like, look, dude, this is not good. You need to listen to me. And I'm like, nope, my decision. It has never ended well. It has never ended well. So you have to, listen to your folks and at least consider it. Yes, you got to make the call at the end of the day, but you at least have to consider it. And I'm wondering if we didn't just see our first example of what we like to call carbon chauvinism, where she was willing to listen to the carbon-based human, but not the artificial life form. So
massage carbon.
Yeah. And maybe that's something that worked its way from Star Trek into the Orville. We shall see as we cover
dun, dun, dun.
episodes in the future. So I got to ask you, because of the time of the show, we're supposed to ask each other.
Oh, yeah.
Does this show align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy?
Ooh. I think it hands down does. I think we're looking at people who know how to lift other people up. We're also looking at how to be more respectful of all species as much as possible, right? Or people that are different from us. And we're looking at how to lead. I think we're seeing some great Roddenberry values. What about you? Do you disagree with me?
No, I think that's all really good stuff. I had some different points jotted down. If you'll bear with me. It's always better to communicate and negotiate a solution than just to go in with guns blazing. They had the Orville. I assume it's it's an exploratory ship, but it looks like it's armed pretty well based on, I don't know, maybe they got some more baby redwoods and that, that they can send down into the zoo, send some wood down there. But it does seem like a pretty well-armed ship. But they didn't do that. They didn't go in guns blazing. They went in to negotiate and communicate and try to work out a solution there.
Good point.
Also leadership is about serving your people. It's not about being in charge of them. It's not about being the boss and making them do what you want to do. It's about serving your people so that you can all kind of get lifted up and be more successful as a team.
And survive, maybe?
Yeah. And survive and thrive. There's a book on my shelf at work. And it's called Make It So, Leadership Lessons from Star Trek. And, I refer to it every now and then. I do kind of, out myself as a Trek fan at work. But, oh, yeah. I think cat's out of the bag at this point, Jessica.
Yes.
But it's by Wes Roberts and Bill Ross. And there's one line in it that struck me when I read the book. And it says, if one fails to listen to what another is saying, one will often fail to properly respond to what has been said.
Wow.
So if you don't listen to what other people are saying to you, there's no way you can act on that information, even if it's good.
Wait, what did you say?
I see what you did there.
You made all these jokes the entire time. I thought it was time to make a joke.
Oh, good.
Well, and it's something that in this day and age, a lot of people are just nodding their head until someone stops talking so that they can share their point, and learning how to listen is just as important as learning how to respond. I think that's a really perfect way to think about it.
That is a great lesson, and you can always tell when somebody's just waiting for their turn to talk and they are not listening to you. And I think that is a great note to end the episode on.
Listen, Mike, this is episode 2. The pleasure is ours. We love doing this already, and I'm so excited to talk about the next episode about a girl.
That is many people that I admire and respect. It's their favorite episode of TV, period, dot.
I just got chills.
There's
so much to talk about.
Wait to dig into that one. So join us next time on Mission Log the Orville as we discuss About a Girl.
Mission Log The Orville is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is podcast.roddenberry.com.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.